Climb aboard the DragonShip as we talk about using Dark Triad traits as manipulation tactics to get what you want.
Through the white thunderstorms, we ride on the back of our truckers in a fearless flight. Sons of Thor, hearts made of fire, conquering lands, fueling our desires. Roaring engines and lightning in our eyes, united we stand. Our strength won't compromise. From the east to the west, we sail every road with the Bauer warriors. Never feel alone. Landscapes of freedom beneath open skies, the promised land where our spirits arise. We battle the storms, the tides of the sea. Now we've arrived in the land we're meant to be.
Good morning, dragons. We are hopping aboard the ship today on a really fun conversation. Dark Triad. And for those who don't know, Dark Triad refers to the three different types of personality traits that tend to be more malevolent. That includes narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. We'll dive deeper into what that is in a bit. The reason why I wanted to do this show, and I'm so excited to dive into it, I went through a bad breakup in the past where it was with an actual woman who was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, which those types of cluster B disorders do tend to have a lot of these traits. And so through that experience, afterwards, I was like, trying to understand and trying to reflect on my experience with her and how she was able to control me so well and completely destroy my psyche. And through that, and doing the research and understanding the different manipulation tactics that exist, I wanted to do that for good. Using Dark Triad for good. And by doing that, I am now in the happiest, healthiest relationship of my entire life, going on over 4 years. And yeah, she's gonna be my my consort for life. So, without further ado, we'll go around the horn. Tarl, what's going on, man? Anything new going on in your life?
Just got so many irons in the fire right now. I'm trying not to fumble them while I'm juggling them.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Thor, how are we?
We're living the dream, the pirate Viking dream, huh? Look at this, hell of a crew today. Talking about the Dark Triad. Wow, the Dark Triad. That's pretty cool. Definitely, there's a lot of value to be had there. It's not as maybe malevolent as we make it out to be, or that it can be. The cluster B thing, I'm going to have you explain a little bit more about that to the audience so we get a good concept of that when we get into it. Fantastic. I'm doing great, man. Guys, check me out at becomedurable.com. All the lectures are on sale, and here we go. A rising tide lifting all ships.
Good stuff. Good stuff. AJ, how are you doing?
I'm a little tired. Got maybe 2.5, 3 hours of sleep since getting off work last night. Currently trying to find a buyer for this place. Working on the book. Made my debut on Rule 0 last week, which was kind of fun. And I'm gonna say the quiet part out loud for all the people watching. When we talk about the Dark Triad, especially when we talk about narcissism and psychopathy, we're not talking about the cluster B disorders. We're not talking about being on a pathological level. So don't spurg out and take it as that. There are traits that a person with NPD or ASPD, antisocial personality disorder, which psychopathy falls under, there are traits that we can emulate and take from, but not necessarily be one at a pathological level.
Yep. Thank you for mentioning that, because they. Okay, what's going on? Is this the narcissism coming out? What's going on, Mike?
I had to get my Dark Triad on. So I had to get my evil Dark Triad sunglasses and my evil Dark Triad outfit.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What's going on in your world? What's new?
Fantastic news. The high in Vegas is only going to be 97 degrees today. Maybe I can get some yard work done.
Yeah,
That's a cold front.
yeah, facts.
Different world out there. Well, good stuff, man. So when I'm going to go ahead and share my screen on this. Actually, this would probably be easier for everyone to digest. If I come over here and we look at this, this is what I was explaining. So the Dark Triad, it's these three different personality types. Essentially, they're called dark because of the manipulation and lack of empathy. And they get broken out. And what I was saying with the cluster B, like MPD, narcissistic personality disorder, that's why some of those traits blend in between one another. And now we typically look at this stuff as bad, but what I really wanted to get into is understanding, okay, what are some of these manipulation tactics or ways that people in the Dark Triad, that naturally are in the Dark Triad, that we could probably take out. So the three: narcissism, characterized by grandiosity, pride, egotism, and a lack of empathy. It's all about me. Machiavellianism is characterized by the manipulation and exploitation of others, indifference to morality, lack of empathy, and a calculated focus on self-interest. That's probably what we're going to focus the most on, because that's where you can get some of the best pieces from. And then psychopathy, that's characterized by the antisocial behavior, the impulsivity, the selfishness, the callous and unemotional traits, and remorselessness. So you don't care what you do to others. These we can't really take too much out of this, and I don't think we should. Here, I want to say on narcissism to begin with, that with narcissism, I know that there's an issue that some guys have where they self-deprecate themselves, thinking that it's like funny or humorous, and it just turns women off. So there is that grandiose sense of self is attractive and can be more helpful if you adopt a trait like that. So that's kind of the basics. I want to know your guys, and we can go around the horn again. What your guys' experience has been. I've kind of explained that it was pretty crappy, the relationship I was in, where she was incredibly narcissistic and it was all about her. She didn't care what went wrong. She had me and tricked me into co-signing a student loan for her for $30,000.
Oh dear.
Even to this day, that is not paid off. I ended up having to sue in an apartment complex that we lived at, and I wouldn't have lived at if she didn't convince me to pick that job just so we could stay together. I ended up suing the apartment complex, and when I don't know what she did or how she was able to do it, but when we won and we got the $2,000 check, she cashed it in her name and spent it on herself. So like there's a lot of those types of things that went on. But I'm curious, and Mike, maybe we can start with you. What's your experience with the Dark Triad and those types of behaviors has looked like?
Well, I'm gonna throw a wrench in the works here today. I'm gonna be that guy. If you own a cell phone, you have Dark Triad traits. What do you mean by that, Mike? Well, the lithium battery in your cell phone is mined up in lithium mines all around the world, typically in third world countries, and usually utilizing child labor. So by owning a smartphone, you are supporting child labor. So the question is, how does that make you feel? If you're okay with that, well then guess what? Your empathy only extends so far. But your empathy cannot extend to everyone all around the world, all 8 billion people. It will drive you insane, much like it drove Bruce in Bruce Almighty insane to hear all of those prayers all at once, because he did not have the mind of God. He had the mind of a human. So we all have these Dark Triad traits, every single one of us. They're just at different levels of intensity. Some people have lithium batteries in their cell phone. Some people were at the 10-minute mark. Some people are serial killers and mass murderers. So it's just different levels. So never assume that you are this goody two-shoes who has 0 Dark Triad traits. We all have a little bit. Every single one of us. Yes, even Martin Luther King, even Gandhi. All of us do. So that's what I'm going to say regarding that.
It's a good point. Yeah, we don't really think about that. And it's like, I guess the argument against it becomes, well, what else am I supposed to do? If we're living in the modern age, I have to have a cell phone, but we don't really think about it that deeply. So that's a really, really good point. AJ, what are your thoughts on Dark Triad and any personal experiences you've had with those that exhibit those types of traits?
Oh, I'm fairly familiar, considering the 5 years combined between my last LTRs were both with cluster B personality types, one being BPD and one being a covert malignant narcissist. But going back to Mike there, you brought up a good point with the empathy. So cluster Bs in general, all 5 flavors, histrionics, borderline, narcissistic, sociopath, and sociopath, are one of the clear delineating traits at a pathological level is the lack of empathy. So we might not have that full empathy that he's talking about with Bruce Almighty, but most of us, 97% of the population, because only about 3% are cluster Bs, do have the capacity for a healthy amount of empathy. So back to my relationships, borderline, it's a borderline, man. Everyone's heard the stories. The covert narc, that's the fun one right there, because they do so well at keeping the mask up, and when it starts crumpling, oh, it hurts. The narcissistic injuries are epic.
Can you explain that a little bit when you're talking about like a mask and whatnot?
So I'm using terminology from Dr. Sam Vaknin, who is the father of now modern psychology when it comes to talking about cluster Bs. So when I use terms like mask, hoovering, it all comes from him. He wrote all the books on it. He took Freud's work and expanded upon it. So mask is like the facade that they put up. Everybody's got a mask, and it comes off within the first 6 months typically. People with cluster Bs can usually keep that mask on almost indefinitely unless you start causing what they call narcissistic injuries, which are just jabs at their ego, and they cannot handle the ego being attacked because that's the self that they see themselves as internally.
Gotcha. Yeah, it really is crazy. Like you chip just one. I had a business relationship with somebody, and as soon as I chipped his ego like one time and challenged him one time in a way that he did not like, even though goof around as guys, it was one specific thing that for whatever reason, and it became a complete meltdown. He completely lost it. We obviously are not friends anymore, and it was just it's crazy when you experience people like that. But we can move on. Thor, what's your experience with Dark Triad? And
Interesting.
yeah,
I would ask you guys this question. Knowing me for a little while, would you say I have Dark Triad traits? Would those be my predominant traits?
Predominant? No, but they're there.
yeah, they're definitely there.
I'd say you have
Not
them
a
in your
bad
toolbox.
thing. It's not a bad thing, but
Well, so I use these quite a bit, but consider narcissism by definition. It's the egotistical admiration of oneself. It's all about me. What does this say right here in my identity?
RP Thor, the dragon,
The God amongst men.
I get that, huh?
God amongst men.
But the way it's constructed and used is a little different. Can get into that later. A new book's coming out about that. The Machiavellianism is the duplicitous interpersonal style and disregard for morality. I will hurt you to succeed. What is useful shouldn't have any morality. There's no good or bad about it, except that you need to weigh what those consequences of exchange is. Is this something I want to do? Is it something I don't want to do? So that's interesting too, because I've done both sides of that, as someone that's going to defend, protect, and provision. I may want to actively engage in that sort of I'm going to hurt people to make sure my family gets ahead or the dragons survive. The next side, and what that demonstrates to people outside is This guy's capable of violence, whether it's administrative or physical. Psychopathy is the absence of empathy and remorse. I don't care if I hurt you. Now, this is interesting. This is the one that I teach guys to detach from and disregard as best as you can. I don't think I can fully do it. Obviously, the model here on the DragonShip demonstrates that I cannot, because I believe in paying it forward. And I think when you do, the universe sends it back to you. So that one's a little less for me, although I understand the usefulness of it. There are quizzes online that will rate you based on your questions, you guys know, on your Dark Triad traits. I see these as tools more so than personality tests. And I probably see that a little bit differently. Because when I see personality, I see character and identity, and I think that's shapeable by us, and it should be, in order for us to improve. You guys have heard of the Big Five, right? The Big Five traits, personality traits. I think those are more useful.
Yeah, it's like agreeableness,
It's
neuroticism,
right? Conscientiousness, which would be that morality, good versus bad. And there's a part for that to play, because polarity is an important part of what makes us who we are, what makes reality fresh and new. Is it this or is it that? And we always lean towards binary outcomes, right? It's either right or it's wrong. It's black or it's white. Man, we push that everywhere. So yeah, you've got that. And then you've got extroversion and introversion, agreeableness, and of course that neuroticism, which is the nervousness versus confidence. And I think those are more important for another show, but Machiavellian, I think there's a lot of useful traits to be clipped off and used sparingly. But even if you have these traits, they seem to be very attractive, because I think what they convey is confidence, and they will, if you have these, you get shit done. I mean, all of these are about doing things, because no one would know if you didn't get things done. So I think these right here certainly demonstrate your capabilities, good or bad. And so it's a little bit like publicity. There is no good publicity, no bad publicity, just publicity, and it's helpful. So the Dark Triad's definitely worth studying. I think some of the guys here use those traits very, very well in their interpersonal relationships. I would be careful with a cluster B, because they got all these in spades. So it's going to be
and it just comes naturally to them.
Yeah,
it's in their head. It's just the way that they're wired at that point. All but the psychopath are made. The psychopath's actually born. The other four are made. And it becomes a pathological thing where they've been doing it for their entire lives, so they're so used to it.
Well, and let's not forget that as a man, if in the event that you need to, like we like to say here, go downstairs and handle business, your empathy has to hit 0. It has to plunge down and hit 0. Otherwise, the slightest bit of empathy towards that home invader, and you're going to hesitate, and you're not going to successfully deal with the threat.
Yeah, you need a detachment of a psychopath or psychopathy, not a psychopath. That is different. Psychopathy and psychopath are different. You can have psychopathy without being a genetic psychopath.
Yeah, well, that's where that remorselessness comes in, right? If you're trying to defend your family, you can't be taking pity on the person trying to take your life or your family's life. You have to be remorseless. And that's where it would be like an exception, not the rule, where you would need to become the personification of violence. And in order to do that, you need to be remorseless, right?
Yeah, and a true
if you feel
psychopath,
sorry for him, you're not going to perform. You're not going to be able to do what you need to do.
Yeah, and a true psychopath might just look at the drunk that was knocking on the wrong door and plant a 9mm in his head. No problem.
Yeah.
Oh, your fault. You knocked on the wrong door.
Yeah, that's no regard for the consequences, right? For yourself or others, right? That shows a lack of conscientiousness, right? Where you're not really understanding the true ramifications of your actions.
Yeah. Interesting that it is such an attractive trait that can be tracked. And it's attractive trait in women too. You guys know that, right?
Well, if you look at like
the Oracle,
most of the consensus on the Dark Triad traits, what do most of them kind of point to? The idea of selfishness, right? Prioritizing yourself, enlightened self-interest, even, right? Which is the more enlightened version of what the Machiavellianism is, right? I cannot help others as well as I can is when I help myself first, right? And that's where like the good Dark Triad trait comes in, is that you understand, you know what is the common factor? Like you talked about this in the beginning, that most guys self-deprecate, right? You know, and to the point where they show they have no confidence, right? You know, guys, you know, they sit there and they, I'm an idiot, ha ha ha. You know, it's just like, yeah, you are an idiot, and you just told the girl straight up, I'm an idiot, and I know I'm an idiot, but I'm an idiot anyway. She's like, oh, he's incompetent, has no confidence, he's a fucking loser. Easy, right? So, but what is somebody like me, right? You asked, because the original question was like, what's your experience with, you know, Machiavellianism or you know, Dark Triad traits? I've embodied them most of my life because I saw my dad do that, right? My dad was, you know, I'm the benevolent dictator, right? Everything I say goes, and I'm not a fucking idiot. I'm not remorseless, but I'm going to put it, it's going to be going my way or the highway, right? If you don't like it.
Because you have to run and lead the family.
Yeah, like it's either going to work or not based on, you know, my leadership, right? So I got accused by my feminist sister all the time of like, oh, do you think, like, she would like try to like jab at me about thinking, you know, maybe you need to be diagnosed, see if you're autistic and stuff like that. It might be true, right? But then she started like saying something, you think you could be kind of sociopathic? I'm just like, why would you say that? You know, because I didn't agree with her about something. And she assumed that because I didn't agree with her that I didn't actually listen to her and wasn't expressing any empathy. Just like, no, I understand exactly your position on this, and I disagree. And I'm stating that. You know, it's like, it's that straightforward.
Use my standard compromise whenever I'm working with somebody or with a woman, you know, is yeah, so I'll make this compromise with you. We'll do it my way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because I knew she was in an emotional state and she wasn't thinking clearly, and then she's lobbing accusations. It's the term I coined, confessions by projections, right? Oftentimes when somebody's accusing you of something, they got those three fingers pointing back at them. They're usually projecting their own shortcomings onto you, you know, and I'm not always, right? There are exceptions, and you got to be self-aware. You know, sometimes people call you out. They actually are genuinely trying to help you. But a lot of times when you're getting shamed because you're prioritizing yourself over the girl, right? That's where you got to embody that Machiavellianism, where you're just like, nope, I'm going to be selfish, and there's nothing you can do about it. You have no power here over me, you know? And having that frame, that mindset, like I said, that got me all sorts of accusations of, you know,
misogyny.
Tarl, that's such a great point, because I was just like thinking about it with that girl I was talking about before. I had a girlfriend in high school who loved art, and she got like one of those massive letters, with a massive envelope, and she painted a completely freehand. She painted Kid Cudi on it in all these different. The thing was beautiful, and the jealousy from the girl that I was with, she actually made me throw that out. I had held on to that for years, for like 6 years or something, and I was going to keep it forever because it was a beautiful gift that somebody gave me, and she made me feel guilt to get rid of it because of her own jealousy, and I just, again, completely blind to it. So you can do a lot of this stuff for good, but that's just an example of the bad.
I know we all start somewhere, Huds, but I gotta say, damn, man, that sucks.
Yeah, it is what it is. Life goes on. I still have the memory. I don't know.
Let me ask you this, Huds. Back then in high school, would you consider yourself a nice guy?
Yes, I was a nice guy until there was some crap that happened going into senior year. Where
who hurt you, Huds?
Oh, dude, you want to hear this story? This is crazy. This is when Huds came out. So
came out of the closet.
I got myself. So this is where Huds came out. So I got blamed for something. So essentially, it's like gaslighting with no proof, and I got kicked out of a camp at one point in time. It was like a business camp. That I was told by my school was like the last straw. If anything else happens, like you're done. Then I went on a trip to Europe with my school, and obviously the drinking age there is not 21. We were all drinking, yet there was one of the guys. He was such a loser, but one of the guys had his whole family come with us and his younger sister. So his younger sister was with us at the club one night, like grinding on dudes as like a 15-year-old girl. And then she, I guess he or she or whatever, told on us. And then we got completely screwed. And I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, you're literally 15 years old grinding on dudes, and then you're going to tell on us? Like, what are we doing here? And it was at that point in time that I realized that the world does not care about you. You do need to care about yourself first. And that's when, like, everything in my life changed.
Yeah, and another example of that, and I am going to answer your question, Huds. I was out and about town with a lady I was dating back in the town I used to live up in Oregon, and we were walking down the street, and this town has a little bit of a homeless problem. No, it's not Portland. It's not ridiculous, but it's noticeable. And so she and I were walking down the street. We had just wrapped up our date, and there are homeless people, you know, asking for money, and we walk past them, and I'm walking between the homeless people and her, you know, to keep her safe. And when I walked her back to her house and I said goodnight to her, she asked why I didn't give any money to homeless people. And I said, because I can do better, greater things with that money than they will. And so that's an example of, like, look, hey, like, whether you're my date for the night or you're my woman, it's better for me to be spending money on myself, or us for that matter, than to give it to some guy when you don't know what he's going to do with it. I would rather buy them a cheeseburger and hand them a literal cheeseburger than hand them money, because then you know what's going on with it. Now, if he trades that cheeseburger for methamphetamines or alcohol, hey, you know, there's nothing I can do about that, but at least I took the necessary steps prior to ensure the best for them out of the goodness of my heart. But that's an example of, like, no, I'm not giving these people any money until my cup runneth over. And after me, then it's my woman, then it's my children, then it's my family, then it's my friends. So after all those people, like about 50, 60 people are taken care of, then I'm giving money to the homeless, because then I've got nothing left to do with it. That's an example of that I can give.
That's a good one. I think of it the same way.
Yeah. Priority list, right? We talked about that a few episodes ago, right? I said you got to formulate a proper priority list to get shit done. A lot of people don't prioritize things correctly. They got it ass backwards, and then they wonder why they have problems. It's just because you're trying to reverse a plan that needs to be played forward, right? You know, you need to learn what the actual priorities are in terms of logistics. Like, most people, they let their feelings get in the way of the actual logistics, and this is why people don't do shit. This is why people do bad shit, you know, and they make uninformed decisions, not because they're uninformed, because their feelings got in the way. That chemical reaction they had no control over. They chose to give up control of themselves, and they don't realize it. You always have a choice. You really do, right? There are exceptions, once again, but most people come up with excuses when they don't have a reason to not, right? That's the big problem. That's why I'm glad that I got that distinction when I was young. My dad said, son, there's a difference between a reason and a fucking excuse. An excuse you have control over. A reason you don't. Get it right. Pay attention.
And that's why the far left version of economics doesn't work. You know, where they want to, like, do things like redistribute wealth and give everything to the poor. Just now, isn't this right, Thor? That the California State Senate is trying to push a bill through to Gavin Newsom where illegal immigrants get to buy a house with zero money down at 0% interest, but American taxpayers don't get access to that. So it's all backwards. They want to give to the poor, but you can't give to the poor if you don't have anything left to give. Whereas the opposite version of it is get rich and then help people after you're rich because you've got more than you know what to do with.
Well, hell, Mike, there was a policy that they're working on with the Biden administration that had people with good credit pay for higher interest rates, so people with shit credit would get lower interest rates on houses.
Yep.
Yeah, Kamala Harris is leading that charge. Kamala Harris, yeah.
Yeah, isn't he trying to push something out where it's like if you're a first-time home buyer, you get a $25,000 credit?
They're just going to raise the prices of houses by $25,000.
But you guys do understand, this is really basic Marxism. They're buying votes. That's what Marxists do.
Shout out to Milton Friedman.
And then they shut that down with regulation. Sure.
It's very interesting. But I want to go through some of these other kind of manipulation tactics that are used. I guess, I mean, there's ways to use them for good, but there's also ways to use them for bad. I mean, you guys have all heard the term of gaslighting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
we're living it right now with this election.
That was what my sister was trying to do to me by calling me autistic and shit like that. Gaslight me.
Yeah.
And she was dealing with her own daddy issues.
Yeah, exactly what AJ just said with the election. Gaslighting is dangerous because it makes you feel like you're losing your mind. And if anybody, if you haven't seen the original Gaslight movie, that definitely is worth checking out because it shows you exactly what this is. What they're doing with the election right now, you are correct, AJ. I'll give just one example of it that cannot be disproven. That the media called Kamala Harris the border czar 4 years ago. Now they said she was never the border czar.
Yep.
What is that like? Okay, now am I the crazy one?
Nope.
They're the mass gaslighting people, 100%.
Or my favorite.
Oh yeah,
one.
they were going around. It was all over TV, and they were toting about it. And don't worry about the border crisis. Kamala's going to handle it. Yeah, we all knew it was smoke and mirrors, and they were just lying. But now that the lie gave out, what are they going to do? They're going to be Machiavellian about it and just pretend like that shit didn't happen.
Yeah. Or my favorite recent one is the one with the tour jet or the election jet at the tarmac, and it shows that large ass crowd. You zoom in on the crowd, all the cameras on the phones are different, and you zoom in on the plane. Look at the reflection. There's no crowd. It's just the fucking tarmac.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I'm not 100% on that one, but I did see that.
Now, Thor, you're a bit more experienced than the rest of us. Tell us for gaslighting. I can't think of a good example for gaslighting unless you are exchanging mental combat with an enemy, a flat out enemy. That is the only time that I have used gaslighting. Is there any benign benefit to gaslighting at all?
The only reason there would be is because the outcome would be beneficial to the other person that you're gaslighting ultimately. And so a much watered down example would be the white lies that you might, or the omissions you might leave out. You don't have to say everything on your mind, but you might put something out there that isn't quite a lie, but it puts somebody at ease so that when the outcome comes back, they're much better off for it because their personality would lead them to actually get involved and it would screw things up when you have actually set this up for their benefit.
Is this like
the only reason? And that wouldn't be considered gaslighting so much as a protection maneuver, but it's essentially the same.
So, like, if you have two soldiers and one of them just got wounded in combat, like he got shot, and his buddy looks down at him, and his buddy knows this is not going to end well, but he tells his battle buddy, it's like, dude, we're going to get you all patched up, we're going to get you home, man, you're going to have apple pie, you're going to bang your wife again, everything's going to be awesome, just stay with me, stay awake.
That's correct, and they do it all the time with cancer patients today, and prognoses and things like that. Doctors literally do that. They'll gaslight their patients to try to get that placebo effect to change mental state. And you can gaslight to change mental state, not in a backwards fashion, but you can do it in a forwards fashion. I do draw the line. If you go over the top and it's ridiculous, that's really bad. But if you're very subtle and you're moving it in a direction that is absolutely going to benefit the person and those around them, they're going to appreciate it actually. that you could take that kind of care and play that kind of 3D chess. It's paying it forward. It's that rising tide. The other side of this that we're all so familiar with is somebody, looks at our phone and they sees the Facebook messages and they see the girls with their butthole pictures and all that. And you say, no, it's not what you think. I got hacked. You're crazy. So-and-so got a hold of my phone, and it's all bullshit. And then you get with them and say, you're just making this stuff up. Classic gaslighting, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
And then you do enough of it, and if you're really good at it, you'll get your friends or his friends that you're flirting with to sit there and say, yeah, you're kind of making it up, bud. And guess what?
That term is called
that's
called
serious.
triangulation.
Yep.
Serious.
Triangulation.
Yes. But on the other hand, if you use some of this here and you unleash the superhero within, you can play 3 steps ahead. And it's not that you're hurting anybody, you're helping them. You can use those techniques to move ahead. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, and that's one of the distinctions I like to draw when we're talking about this topic is the difference between manipulation and persuasion, right? A lot of people like to conflate the two, but there is a clear nuanced difference between when you're manipulating somebody and when you're persuading somebody. When you're persuading somebody, both people benefit. That's the gaslighting you're talking about, Thor. When you're positively benefiting somebody with that tool, that personality trait, you're actually benefiting them. Whereas if you were being, actually manipulative about it, you would be only doing it to benefit yourself with no positive benefit to the other person at all, right? That's the fundamental problem with manipulation, why we all instinctively don't like it, because we understand that person is not a team player. They are a lone wolf pretending to be a team player, right? And when you exhibit that behavior, we automatically all recoil from that because we know that that's a bad bet. That person's probably way too far on that dark triad where they're probably a straight up sociopath, right? That's like the soft version of it. And then it could end up being like a straight on psychopath where they're actually capable of extreme violence, right? So you have to draw that distinction. Like, what are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about persuasion, right? Most people use dark triad. Bad people use it for manipulation, both men and women, right?
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it, and a good example of this, like in terms of the gaslighting being used for positive. I do a kind of a variation of this, right? One of the things, what is one of the POA tactics? Agree and amplify, right? So if my girl says something, right, I may gaslight her on it in some fashion where I may say even agree with her and amplify it to the point of absurdity, right? Where I use gaslighting, basically, saying something that's not true is true sarcastically.
Yeah,
because
that's what I
it's
mean.
a fun little game then, right?
Yeah, if we're gonna right.
But if you use that sarcastic tone,
manipulatively.
but if you use the sarcastic tone that most people can pick up on, is it gaslighting at that point? Because then you're not being serious.
No, that's the thing. Sometimes I'll be deadpan about it. I will actually act like I'm dead ass serious about it, and then that's when you crack the smile, right?
So you guys know I gaslight to get a tremendous result with the ladies. Technically it's a gaslight. It is not. It really is.
Are you seeing anyone else? Yeah, I'm banging half of Vegas.
Yep.
True. You guys have heard the story. I might as well repeat it again. In the food preps, I was into aesthetic bodybuilding, and it worked really well. And my wife would make these amazing bacon, egg, and cheese burritos, and she would do it in such a fashion with onions and slime. I mean, the whole thing was there, and she'd make me a dozen or 2 dozen at a time. I'd freeze them, and then I would have an oven inside of my work truck, which is a small compact truck, but there was a small little oven in there. It's 12 volt. I could throw one in there wrapped in foil. By the time I got to work, I had this wonderfully hot burrito, and I was eating all of this protein. It's wonderful. When she first made those for me, this is how I gaslit her. I also call it emotional spiking. So I can use different terms, but I use the same technique. I took the burrito and I took a bite out of it, and I started to eat it, and I started to just turn my head like that. And then I sat there and I swallowed it, and I threw my burrito down, and I acted like, oh my God, like it was the worst possible thing in the world, and just made a big ordeal out of it. That was the gaslighting, right? She panicked because she spent a lot of time and really wanted to do this. Now her emotion was really high that there's something wrong. You understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Next step was for me to look at her, and she's saying, what's wrong with it? What's going on? I said, I don't know if I could take this to work with me. I just don't even know. She's like, what? Now I've amped her even more with gaslighting techniques. And I'm talking to this for Lindsay so she knows when this is coming. Essentially, then I looked at her and said, I don't know.
God damn it, Thor, you're giving away all the secrets, bro.
Okay, don't give all the secrets away. And then, so, I mean, there's many other things you can do like this. And then I look at her and says, yeah, this burrito is so goddamn good. It's giving me a tremendous boner right now. I don't even know if I can get the car and drive to work without just banging you right now. It would ruin my entire day and I couldn't get any work done. Bingo. She benefits, she laughs, she giggles, thinks that's fun as hell. And now we have a big emotional spike that was basically done through the use of gaslighting techniques, but it was, I pushed her mental state into a spot. Now, if I wanted to go opposite of that, she was making me burritos, I'd eat these, and then I'd turn it around and say, I know you're making these burritos for your goddamn boyfriend, and I don't appreciate that. I was on your phone. And of course, that didn't happen, right? Now I'm going in the opposite direction with the same information. So context is important, polarity is important, and the way you approach it's important. So
yeah,
no, I'd relate that story to clarify what's going on with. It's not necessarily gaslighting in the classic term, but I'm using all the same techniques to get a benefit.
Right, and that's one thing as well that I wanted to talk about with this, because emotional spiking, I think, is the best thing that you can possibly have for a happy, healthy, long-term relationship. Yes, it may seem like emotional manipulation, but you're really just having fun and you're strengthening that relationship through it. And that's why you can take some of those skills from like love bombing or like stonewalling, or like acting like interest, disinterest. Okay. So let's say you're very involved, and then with something like that, you act disinterested, even though you're not actually disinterested, and then you pull it back. And it's just, I don't know, it makes it fun. It's, as Thor, as you said, that word there is so key, polarity. That polarity makes the relationship enjoyable. And yes, you could consider it manipulation, but I don't know. I like roller coasters, and I think it can be a little bit more fun as long as you don't go too crazy with doing this, and you're not doing it in a nefarious manner.
Yeah, I would not use the terms gaslighting anymore, because everybody, you read it one way, but when you break it down, you have these techniques they're using to emotionally spike somebody, to push somebody in a direction you want them to believe. You know, you want them to believe something and then pull it back. It's usually used for bad stuff, you know, make somebody think they're crazy and that they're making stuff up and things are all their fault. You're doing a tremendous amount of blame shifting when you're gaslighting, as it's laid out today. We all know what blame shifting is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Way to put accountability on somebody else.
Yep.
Yeah,
I cheated because you work too much.
Well, I like to do that with emotional spiking as well, but I do it in a different fashion. When somebody tries it on me, I reverse it, especially if it's a woman, and tell them that they made me feel a certain way, and that would cause me to do certain actions, and I make sure it's something that's important to them. Now I have an emotional direct connection, and that changes things in my favor a lot of times. So
yeah, and well, that's one of those harsh, as they would call it, as what the kids say, the red pills, right? Is that women know they're emotional, they get emotional, not just for that time of the month, but they have the emotional moments where they get those heightened things. If you don't know how to handle that, this is where a lot of people struggle in long-term relationship game, right? LTR game is a real thing, and understanding that women are going to shit test you, they're going to do all these things, they're going to get emotional, and if you as the man do not know how to handle it and control your shit, your relationship will spin out of control from failed shit test after failed shit test, where you just don't know how to handle your woman's emotions, right? That's where a lot of guys fuck up, and you see them online getting mad, like, yo, these women. It's like, yeah, it's insane. It's not logical. It seems ludicrous to most men because we're thinking in a more calm, rational state. But see, then there's men that are thinking in an emotional state that totally vibe with it. They're cool with it, right? You see this on the left quite a bit. These effeminate men, they're cool with that sort of behavior, right? Why? Because they're not understanding the roles. They're not understanding the traits. They're not understanding the action-reaction. Truly, they're living in an imagined version of reality, and they don't realize it. An idealized version of reality, right? And that's not how reality actually works. Your girl is going to get emotional. You're going to have to control yourself so she can get through that. And that's what makes you the rock in the relationship. That's what shows that you have confidence. Women don't want a man that's going to fucking buckle under pressure, right? They always try to act like, I want a soft man. I'm okay with a weak man and blah, blah, blah. They always say that. Women say a lot of things, but look what they actually respond to. Once again, what did the POAs find out? What do they actually respond to, right? What actually makes them happy? They'll tell you all this fucking bullshit that makes them happy, that actually makes them fucking miserable human beings that actually end up lashing out at other people in society that we see right now going on. And people are bitching about it, but they're not understanding. The problem is that we're reacting rather than being proactive about this stuff and controlling ourselves first as men. That's your job, not to be one of those weak emotional pussies that can't handle a female's emotions. They're gonna do it.
Because remember, guys, if she's shit testing you, she's into you.
Yeah, she needs verification, right? The women aren't going to waste their time with you if they don't see something interesting that they want to investigate. And maybe they don't actually like you. Maybe they want to actually fuck with you. But once again, what does Rolo always say? Don't spoil it for them. Discovery trumps disclosure.
Play with her and play with her.
Exactly.
She wants to play the game. She doesn't want to talk about the game.
Exactly.
Yeah. Women are players. They don't want a theory craft.
That's why you don't red pill women.
It's a good
You
point.
gotta be careful when you use these techniques because it's easy to overdo it. Subtle is better.
Yes.
Okay. So talk with one of us, guys that have done it and done it successfully many times, and you'll be better off for it. Even your relationship, they will actually appreciate it. Now, the secret is not spilling the beans. Oh, I'm doing this to you. Ruins the magic every time.
Yeah, it ruins everything.
And guys can't stand it. Look, I got this secret. I got to tell my woman. Don't do that, please.
No.
Yeah, it's like even with my girl watching, right? I'm not going to tell her all the things that I do. I'll share the stories after the fact because here's another little trick, right? If she hears these stories, year, 2 years later down the line, and you can reminisce about it, like I'm sure your woman, Thor, if you reminisce about that story, she loves that, right? But in the moment, she wasn't aware of it. You didn't disclose that to her. You didn't tell her immediately after the fact or anything like that. What your nefarious plan was. You didn't disclose all that. You kept that to your chest. Why? Because by explicating it, it would have ruined it completely. Right? Yeah. Oh, I'm Red Pill Thor, and I'm gonna tell you, woman, I use Dark Triad, and I made you question yourself, and I made you wet for me. Ha ha ha! No, that's where most of these.
You gotta put these glasses on, like you fell right into my trap card.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, but it's funny. We had some friends, especially some of the other women friends that were here. One of them just blurted out after seeing some of this, and her comment was, Or this is why all women love you. As she picked up on it, but she's a little older and definitely.
When you
enjoyed it,
and then when you do stuff like that, you get your woman telling other women about you.
Yeah.
But hey guys, check this out. Thor really knows his Dark Triad, and if you want to learn more about it directly from Red Pill Thor himself, you can get his book, A Dominant Masculine Presence, and the audiobook on Audible, narrated by the God Amongst Men himself. Check this out.
Masculinity is in crisis. What are we to do? We need to acquire a dominant masculine presence. Now available on Amazon. Masculinity is in crisis. Men's masculine behaviors and traits have been suppressed by popular culture. Why has it become so popular to shame, guilt, insult, masculinity, and masculine behaviors? After 50 to 70 years of this has resulted in a very large subset of men who have become weak, useless, and crisis. Pathetic state for boys and men that leads to depression and violent despair. A dominant masculine presence addresses this very dilemma for the individual man, and it firmly establishes why this is what is desperately needed by the individual man today. In this book, clearly defined masculine traits and behaviors and the emotional durability provided by traditional masculinity are presented as a guide to what every man should embed into his identity. Putting these principles and behaviors into practice will motivate and direct your path step to step to create for yourself an authentic, dominant masculine presence.
Guys, check out Thor's book. It is fantastic. I myself have both the physical copy and the audio book. And we also want to shout out our chatters here in the chat. Lindsay Smith, it sounds like Thor knows you. We will say goodbye to you here. It says sounds like you're headed off somewhere, but thank you for stopping by. And then, of course, we can't forget our super chats because they support the show. Thank you so much, Ken Rose, for the $2 super chat. Let's give him a war horn.
Okay. You guys hearing the war horn?
Thank you very much, Ken. And he doesn't say much. He rarely does. So we will just do the Terminator thumbs up and slowly sink down into the lava. There we go. Thank you very much, Ken, for that. We appreciate it. So, Tarl, I bet you've got way more to bring up and talk about. I can't... There's no way this is everything.
Well, for a Dark Triad, like I said, that's...
Tarl, my bad Huds. You're both blonde. You're both Vikings. Damn it. I'm sorry.
What do you mean we're both blonde? The dude doesn't have hair.
Strawberry blonde. Strawberry...
Maybe blueberry.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Look at AJ over there. AJ's shocked. He's like, I'm running on no sleep, and Mike's the one making mistakes.
My gaslighting is so good, I had convinced Mike that Tarl was a blonde.
To me, it looks like ginger like myself.
Huds.
Well, another one that's interesting when I just think about like manipulation is doing certain things. Like, so I'm going to think about the workplace right now. In the workplace, when you go ahead and you give praise where it maybe necessarily isn't needed, but you do it publicly in front of others, you then get that person to like you more, and then you can get them to do things in the future more likely by doing that. Even if it's a bullshit compliment, it's the way that you say it and saying it in front of others. So that's, that's deceptive behavior because you don't mean what you're saying, but you know that the end goal, you're kind of moving that chessboard so that you be in a better position.
Good point. That is exactly the same tactics that you used before, but this approach and the tone is different because if you use it too much, especially on a team, you look like a sycophant.
Yeah. Yes. Little tiny IV drip doses over the course of many, many years. You definitely don't want to do that over and over again all day, every day. They're going to start to ask questions internally.
Yeah,
see, my employer has
a right turn, it breaks your neck.
Yeah. My employer actually has a system for this. On one of the programs that we use, we can log in and we can give what we call kudos to an individual or a whole entire department, and the site directors and the managers of those departments see it. And then we track all the kudos as part of our KPI for our monthly meetings.
And that's, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but guys, that is a way to shape your environment and kind of like take charge of the universe that operates around you by giving, like what AJ was talking about, by giving kudos to team members you like and like working with, even if they were just doing their job and you still give them a kudo, and then don't give kudos to people you don't like. Sometimes when a corporate restructure or reshuffle occurs, the people who got all the kudos get to stay, and the people who got none go bye-bye.
So that's interesting. I have a story on this. So some 10, 15 years ago, my corporation, dominated by all men as a power lineman organization across the nation, would hand out these awards. You could hand them out, their safety awards or achievement awards, and there were so many points, and you could buy things like barbecues, spotting scopes, even target rifles, sporting goods, and things like that. Of course, that was eliminated about 9 years ago, and they didn't bring it back. But what they did bring back after a large environmental social governance score that they worked on with WEF, they came out and got rid of that, and they gave, I want to say it was called a very feminine sounding name, but it was produced by a corporation called My Fairy God Boss, which is a woman-run organization. If anybody wants to Google that, look up My Fairy God Boss. They basically take over your corporate social media, and they produce things exactly like these guys were telling you, but instead of kudos, it's like, flowers or something like that. And it is very different, very LGBT oriented. That caused quite a stir with the corporation, but we were going there to get the operating capital from the International Monetary Fund through the ESG scores and the DEI. But it's pretty wild. I've been kind of harping about that for many years, and everybody looks at me with a cross eye. And what are we talking about today in our politics? Harley Davidson.
Manipulation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Harley Davidson.
Yeah. People being manipulated. I don't think manipulation is necessarily a bad thing. It could be a good thing, but in the context we're looking at today, we're under such a managed reality coming from media to social media. Heck, I even have friends that want to manage your reality for you as a hobby. So be aware of the managed reality we're definitely in. And I wouldn't necessarily say all manipulation is bad. Sometimes you might want to just call it a negotiation, you know?
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that?
That's
What
what I was
do you
saying.
guys think
It's a
about the
persuasion
manipulation?
factor, right? If you're coaxing somebody into something that's beneficial to them, right? That's a sales pitch, right? And it could be bad, it could be manipulative, or it could be good. It all depends on the outcomes, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. It depends on the intent and the outcome, right? If those two line up where everybody's, benefiting, or at least at part of that, as long as at the end of the day, both parties are benefiting and they're not doing a bunch of fuck shit to gain that ground, that's where the good comes in, where it's not evil, right? And that's where a lot of people don't want to pay attention to the context and the nuance. And like I said, I say this over and over again, those are the two most important things to pay attention to in any situation. And a lot of people sacrifice the mental bandwidth where they're just focused on all the distractions, right? They want you distracted, right, on anything but what matters, right? That's the thing. And you see the guys and the people in the world, right? This goes to women too. The people that are focused on what actually matters gain more ground in life. Why? Because they're focused less on manipulation tactics and more on persuasion tactics.
That's a good way to put it, actually, Taro. I like that. You can take manipulation and change that thought, that mimetic in your head. I am going to manipulate, or I am manipulating, to I'm persuading. And I like that. Yep, that is absolutely right. And, I feel bad about how people communicate now because I'm seeing it all the time. People, we're in such a hurry, and I'm not sure where it comes from yet. I'm just kind of spitballing here. But if you guys engage in any conversation with anybody where you can't get very far and they start actually filling in the rest of your conversation for you, essentially interrupt you and fill in what you were trying to say, but that wasn't what you were trying to say.
Yep, or they try to have that actually happened to me at work. I brought up something. I sent an email to the cyber team asking them some questions about a server that showed up in my environment, and I didn't know what it did. And I had 4 questions, basically, what does this server do? Who's responsible for it? Who owns it? And what happens if the server goes down? And instead of answering my 4 very basic, simple questions, I got an email back saying, don't touch that server, don't take it down. And they CC'd every director and every VP. And they basically said, because of the way you worded your questions, it indicated you were going to take the server down.
Oh, that's a beautiful example. I have interacted with so many people in the last 2 months, and this has happened in a lot of environments, enough to where I started writing notes on it, what I'm actually seeing. And I'm like, this is a different trend that I've noticed. Now, it may have been here for a while, but I'm definitely I've even seen it from some associates, not here or anything like that, you would engage in a conversation, just like you said, and you'd be describing something, getting interrupted, and then getting words inserted or scenarios inserted that they were just making assumptions, vast assumptions.
Having a conversation about the conversation.
That is a huge manipulation. That's not a negotiation. I would almost consider that kind of gaslighting too. That's how popular that's become. We got to do an episode on this. There's too much there. There's that. And then when you let somebody know, particularly a customer service or a person that's a little bit incompetent, you let them know, yeah, that's not what I was saying. They basically half the time argue with you and come back and watch this on any of the shows that people kind of go back and forth. Someone's going to answer a question that's easily answerable without a yes or no and go, no. Their first freaking word out of their mouth instead of okay or right or acknowledging them is no or no. I don't know where that's come from. Is that because we have so damn many debates? Is it the politics of the day? Someone will tell me, yeah, Trump was, they attempted to make a assassination attempt on him, and then I would respond by, no, it wasn't that, and then just make up some shit on the back end. Maybe I'm hypersensitive to it, but I've been paying attention how conversations have been going in the last 4 or 5 months. I think if I was asked my buddy Rollo, he'd say this is an indicator of what we had last time with the election cycle. It starts to ramp up, and there's these pushes. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting to observe. I assume you guys have seen it too, and I think that's part of a larger gaslighting program. People don't even know they're doing it.
Yeah. Well, it's.
I mean, heck, even with this
and stuff.
Even with this election cycle, it's very confusing. Where they talk about how that the crime rate has gone down under the Biden-Harris administration. That is a blatant lie. During the administration, they changed the rules on how things are reported. So only about a third of U.S. cities now are even reporting their crime statistics.
Mm-hmm.
That's been really successful, though. That works with inflation. You just lie about it enough and make sure your news media doesn't report the other side, or they have to dig for it, like go to Freddie Mac to get the information. And I guess all of us have such bad short-term memory that we just believe it, you know?
Well, look with everything with the Fauci's, or the Fauci ouchies.
Oh,
like all that shit was
absolutely.
gaslighting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, isn't it? But
Yep.
I didn't mean to take us down there. I wanted to use the example of that's kind of mass gaslighting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep,
No, I
exactly.
think it's interesting. Go ahead, Toro.
And that's a pretty dark triad trait right there.
Yeah, and like
At a
I
larger
mentioned before,
scale.
that's what the left does a lot, and the right does it too.
They
right?
do.
No,
They
nobody's
do
innocent
exactly
in
the same
this.
thing. Yeah.
Right, and that's why I actually wanted to speak a little bit on what you guys were talking about in the workplace, like workplace kudos and stuff like that. This is something that I've just been doing for a long time because my grandfather always taught me to treat the people that you work with or work for you or whatever the case may be, treat them like human beings, right? So rather than cogs in a machine. So I will compliment people because I know most people have a negative bias, right? Human beings, we have a negative cognitive bias. So we tend to focus on the bad shit people are doing or what they're not doing and this, that, and the other thing. So the issue with that is, especially in a workplace environment or even any relationship, is that you need positive and negative reinforcement, right? The negative reinforcement is to hold the boundaries, and the positive reinforcement is to encourage people doing what you want them to do, right? So if somebody does something that I like, I will go out of my way, say in the Fresh and Fit Discords and stuff like that, to compliment the person. And even like if they come up with a good quote or something like that, I'll give this I'll give an example of this, right? One of the guys I know in there, Spear, he has this thing that he said that I absolutely loved and that I used a lot, is that he would advise people, when I go into a conversation, I try to assume that the other person knows something I don't. So that way I don't make assumptions, right? And I actually hear them out, right? I need to listen to the part and try to figure out the part that I'm missing that they know that I don't, and then I can make a better judgment. And so this enables him to go into a conversation with a more open mind while still keeping guard blockers up to make sure you don't get gaslit or bullshitted, right? And this is a powerful framework. And so what did I do? I started using it, and I always credit him for it, even like I'm doing right now. What am I doing? I'm big up in somebody that did something fucking good, right? Instead of focusing on, in that, on the counter, other side of that man's made mistakes, but he's owned up to them, right? He's addressed them by fixing them. He didn't just say sorry. He demonstrated sorry by changing that shit, right? So once again, what am I going to do as a team player? I'm going to give him the big ups. I'm going to, share his message so that way other people can benefit from the positivity of that, and he benefits from it as well. And that's me, once again, being persuasive for the group because I'm showing to other people, complimenting in front of other people, this dude did something really fucking good, and this is valuable to the community. Pay attention, and that's demonstrating rather than just explicating.
So let me offer some practical advice. One of the favorite things I have posted right here. 218 in the chat, guys. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. We're a lot of tongue-in-cheek here. We get a little serious now and then because it's important what we want to pass forward to everybody. We definitely want to pay it forward and raise that tide. We're the tide that raises all ships. So this is one that I say to myself because this is kind of gaslighting myself, and this will counter it. How do I counter these messages, Thor? Well, I like this quote from Nietzsche. It's any man who has acquired the why can endure anyhow easily. Friedrich Nietzsche. So it doesn't quite fit into the Dark Triad, but it's close enough at the same time those things were written that I like that one a lot. If you've acquired the why, you can endure anyhow. What do you guys think about that?
Makes
I'm
sense?
stealing that from my book.
Please do.
Yeah, I like that.
But then when you do that, quote the DragonShip instead of Nietzsche. Or
I'll put
RP.
RP Thor and then Nietzsche in parentheses.
Sure. And when you think about that, there's a detachment that you can do there. And I'll do an episode on that as soon as I'm able to. And when I say detach from emotions, there's so much emotions now in the country around the election, and it's done on purpose because of our managed reality. This will absolutely seep and bleed over into your personal life. You can't help it if you listen to anything. And I used to call it, this is kind of the spirit of what goes on during these election cycles, and there's other cycles of disaster, and it definitely affects the emotion of everybody. There are those that would get real esoteric and say that it affects the consciousness of everybody. There might be some truth to that too. So the way to detach and bolster yourself against that is kind of to isolate into some thinking like, I have the why. So this is really, these thoughts are nothing. They don't really exist for me, you know, as far as the hows that are hitting me. And it might be difficult, brutal, physical, emotional, but what are they being generated by? You know, if it's physical, we can move, you know, take some action. If it's all emotional and psychological, well, guess what you control every day? You control your thoughts. And so you can eliminate them. I know it's not easy. Definitely there's ways to do it, and we're going to help you. We can't get into all the details that we do here, but we've got quite a bit of resources that can absolutely do it. The book's a good place to start, but there's way more than that. I'm sure when we wrap up today, Huds will announce the project that's coming and light a fire under us all.
It's going to be pretty damn cool. I am very, very excited for it. I'm trying to think, because I could go forever on this topic just because of how I've experienced it. What is there anything specific that you guys want to cover, or do you want me to just keep running through different manipulation tactics? Where do you guys want to go?
Oh, run through a couple more that you like, and then let's run into the project. I'll let you, so you're the project manager. Let's introduce it officially, and I will drop into the share the sample templates so that you can kind of show on the share what's coming.
Okay, sure. Yeah, no, I'm super excited. I'll just share that right now, and we can maybe talk deeper into it. But when it comes to this type of stuff, when it comes to how to navigate life and how to navigate life in the best way possible, Thor wrote a fantastic book, A Dominant Masculine Presence. Teaches you how to be a man in today's society when today's society is saying that anything masculine is toxic. And for you to be the leader of your home and the leader of your own life, you need to understand these skills. Within that book, there are 7 different skills that are discussed. And let me just pull them up just because I don't have it offhand and I want to make sure I don't get anything wrong. Oh, I got so much of Paul's stuff here. Jesus Christ. So those 7 skills: physicality, psychology, presence,
Oh, shoot.
problem solving, prosperity, power, and passion. Now, we are working with the majority of people in the red pill and manosphere in that entire space to release an entire series. Everybody will have their own book or may have many books. These books will not just be a physical print, as you see here with Thor's, but will also have audibles as well. Thor is showing right here. This is absolutely fantastic. With short them right here, we're gonna color code them so you understand which specific skill it falls under. And everyone's gonna have a voice, and everyone's gonna share their personal stories. And in whatever area of life you're trying to improve upon, boom, boom, baby, we got it. We got it. And so this
Okay.
has been super cool. I can't wait to announce like who actually like as people finish. We've had one person finish so far, and we have a second one coming up, and then another one coming soon. So be on the lookout for this, because once it starts, it's really gonna snowball.
Yeah, I think so too. Oh, that's not it. Let me stop the share. Stop sharing. Yeah, I just want to show all the templates that are out there. Guys, we're going to take the skills, essential skills of a dominant masculine presence, and give you each. And here's the thing. We're asking everybody that's been in the manosphere that wants to contribute to this to describe a series of experiences, life learnings that made a particular skill that's outlined in a dominant masculine presence that goes beyond alpha, goes beyond beta. All the traits are listed. The masculine traits are listed there. Why it was important to them. It might be a story from father to son, such as the one I tell about eating the elephant. It could be that simple, and something that simple really falls into prosperity. That is the skill set of prosperity, to learn how to eat the elephant properly, because it just puts it right in context. You get to tell a story. You get to work with Huds, who's an amazing project manager, and you get to become a published author under this encyclopedia of the essential skills of a dominant masculine presence, which will go beyond the book. I've had a tremendous amount of feedback, and this is not just exclusive to men. Trust me. This has been women as well. And what's lost here is the ability to transfer this information from a masculine man to a young boy, or even to a young girl, so that she knows the type of mate she'd want to enhance her life, because her being connected to a dominant masculine presence that has these skill sets will enhance her life, and she'll acquire these skills as well. So, which is interesting, because when I wrote the book, I didn't put down the key search word of mate seeking, but I ended up being top 10 in mate seeking for 6 weeks, which there's nothing in there about that, except a small blurb in the bibliography about divorce. So interesting enough, though, there's 7 of these. There's actually 8, because the book is really about identity. When you connect all of this, it's why your identity is so important, and it's important to grow forever. And I talk about some of the stuff that Carl Jung put out there. Not all of it, but some of it's very useful. The alpha and beta, super useful in context as container words, because it's easy to describe to somebody in a binary fashion. Is he alpha? Is he beta? No, I'm sigma. Well, we'll see about that. But it's pretty useful to get the party started. And then the next level is what we're talking about. And then, of course, there'll be some unpublished bonus skills that'll come out a little bit later. And then I'm hoping to have something done as a collaboration with for the women probably next year. So look forward to this project. This is the essential skills of a dominant masculine presence, which will surprise you. Who's committed to write, these small books on these skills. It's everybody you know, and it's probably going to take between 9 and 13 months to complete. But you guys will all have access to this, essentially an encyclopedia and a how-to. I'm not going to use the word prescription, because they're all about experiences. And isn't that really the ultimate manipulation, is using the Socratic method, so you answer your own questions? Because you'll read these stories and you'll go, yeah, that happened to me. Oh, that's why I asked that question. So you're really getting into this is going to get you to answer the questions for yourself, which is much more meaningful. You're essentially going to gaslight yourself with the truth.
Yeah. And as much as I know that there's going to be a lot of guys that are curious about, guys that have more or less, made it, right? Their perspective, how they came to a lot of the conclusions they did. And also, the nice thing about this project is people will be able to compare side by side. Like, okay, so these guys came to similar conclusions, or maybe different conclusions on these topics. And this is why, because it might be anecdotal. Once again, I know what women will be interested in this as well, because how many times have I been in these spaces and I've had women be like, they'll ask, what is the question? Who hurt you? Right? What does that question really entail? They want to know, how did you get this way? right? Why are you so confident? that cracks me up.
I was going to show that, but I decided not to, and then you went ahead and did it anyway.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize it would jump in there, Mike. We'll start over with you, but I did want to show our vice president and Make It Today. He has commitments to his family and his children. Hats off, vice president. Definitely a Drakkar. I've just read his draft, and I wouldn't have done this, but the damn thing popped up. I guess I hit the wrong button. But he has done his draft, and I read his first draft, and I'm just like, man, you guys are in for a treat. So, Paul Bauer, I don't know if this is going to be your cover because Huds was kind of.
It's not going to be his cover. That was a joke.
Yeah,
maybe we should start. Maybe
the TradCon types, man. They're gonna if he were to do that, he's already been like stoking the fires over there on Twitter and stuff. Like that fire's gonna get out of control if he publishes that thing.
Why do you think I asked Huds to make that?
Should I get him a nameplate for his cut that now says Red Pill Jesus? Red Pill Jesus here. Okay, sorry. All right, I didn't realize that it would pop up. So.
Oh no problem at all. It's hilarious. But everybody is gonna have like custom covers, as I said. Like they're gonna have. We're gonna color code it for the different volumes, and as Thor said, pretty much everybody that you know in this space is involved. It's kind of wild, and I'm incredibly honored to be working alongside Thor and the rest of these guys here to be able to create something like this. Being able to share that personal story is really going to create a legacy. I remember back when I was just getting back into the Red Pill space. I was aware of it back in like high school, but when I got back into it like sophomore year of college, I ended up falling in love with Christian McQueen. And actually, it was at Christian McQueen's Playboy Summit. Was the very first time that Rolo ever showed his public face. He had never done so before.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and so for me, what I love so much about Christian McQueen is that he had a website which no longer exists. I mean, you can find some of the stuff on the Wayback Machine, but no longer exists. But he would have articles, blog posts like every couple days, and I just loved it. Like literally, I was like an intern at work, and my favorite time of the day, whether I had to take a crap or not, I still would go to the bathroom in the basement and I would read through the latest articles that had come out, and it gave me so much additional information to become the best man that I could be. It helped me so much with women. It helped me so much with like my self view. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to bring some of that back, and then also doing it in audio format so you can listen to it in the car. You don't have to read, since I know a lot of people nowadays don't like reading anymore. But still, covering everything that we possibly can. Really excited for it.
Yeah, and Hud, you rolling up this thing with your PMP skills. Thank you. I appreciate that. And many of the other influencers that are out there in the Manosphere space or Red Pill space want to contact, I'm sure you can reach Huds through Instagram or myself, and we'll listen to the experiences you want to share and what your thoughts are. They have to be centered around the essential skills, which is the 7 skills that are outlined, and potentially there could be bonus skills, but we'd have to talk about it. And then you could get involved with the project. We're really only looking for 10 to 100 page essay on sharing your experience that would be useful to paying it forward to other Vikings that are learning this information and need it in order to establish their own dominant masculine presence quicker than having to go to the school of hard knocks. If that's the case, and you're one of our guys, we'll put you on board.
Awesome, good stuff. Well, I think we're around that time. I know I gotta hop with AJ for a separate call because we are going to be bringing Vince. Vince is going to be joining us on this project as well. So very, very excited for that.
Well, describe who Vince is. Vince is the masculine geek, right?
Masculine
Yes.
geek. Yeah, AJ, you want to go ahead and explain what you guys do?
Yeah.
So we're going to his monthly meeting. He's got a monthly group, small group. Me and you are trying to recruit. I'm going to use the word recruit Vince and Robert Kusland to join us on this project for Thor, because both of those guys have immense passion for their fucking hobbies. And Vince also dabbles into the harem and the BDSM side of things. So he's got some very cool insights that we may want to employ into this book series.
Oh, absolutely. I think that fits right into passion. You know, passion for hobbies and passion in some other ways. All right. Well, good stuff, guys. Let's go around the horn. I want your guys' final thoughts on this. There's a lot of stuff that I really wanted to say that I don't want to necessarily say publicly, because it's stuff that I kind of go through with people when they evolve, when they graduate, so to say, from my program. But when you truly internalize these Dark Triad skills, you can really control your reality and control your future. So, Mike, we'll start with you. I want some of your final thoughts and where people can find you.
Absolutely. Guys, you can check me out. Here we have my IG. That's where I keep things nice and hunky-dory. Food, celebrities, travel, other people in the space. And then X, that's where I raw dog the internet. Follow at your own risk. But the last thing I'll say is, guys, if all you care about is yourself and the people around you, whether it's just one person, maybe it's your brother, maybe it's your father, and they're all you've got. Maybe it's your woman and children and friends and family, and that's it. Never, ever let anyone guilt you into thinking that you're a terrible person because you only care about 10 people and you don't care about migrants on the southern border, or you don't care about people in Ukraine getting attacked by Russia. Don't let anyone guilt trip you into that, because you only have the capacity to worry about your immediate circle as it is anyway. And unless you're a billionaire like Elon Musk and can literally give food and free internet to people struggling all over the world, then don't concern yourself with such things. Worry about your circle. Worry about your own little world first. And if that's all you end up doing for the rest of your life, because you don't have the time or the resources or the energy to worry about events and people outside of your circle, then that's fine. Because if everybody in the world only focused on themselves and then their immediate social circle, the world would be a better place. The world actually goes to shit when people try to worry too much about things that don't impact them at all. That's why we end up where we are.
Fantastic. Well put. All right. Pull up AJ here. I know you're jumping between meetings, but do you have any final thoughts on this?
Yeah, some good final thoughts, and I apologize if the noise is a little loud. I'm actually in my garage right now. If you guys aren't ready to delve into the Dark Triad and start using some of that, I highly recommend picking up When I Say No, I Feel Guilty by Manuel J. Smith, because the ultimate counter manipulation is assertiveness. So that has some good techniques in there. And also, Amuse Mastery works wonders with everybody. If it doesn't affect you directly, you either find it interesting, amusing, or you just don't give a fuck about it. Employ that, and your world gets a hell of a lot better right off the bat. Where to find me right now, the only place I'm really active is X and YouTube. You'll see me hopping on with Glenn from time to time, hopping on with Vince at Masculine Geek for some D&D, maybe some painting. Every once in a while, I'll hop in for his fireside chats. That's about it.
Good stuff, man. Thank you so much, AJ. All right, Tarl, jumping to you.
Yo, so comes down to right tool for the right job, right? When we're talking about all these sort of, whether it's manipulation, persuasion, regardless of it, it's what are the tools, the mental frameworks, right? Same way that a hammer or a firearm can be misused, right? These tools can be misused as well. So with great power always comes great responsibility. Right. And that's why I tell guys all the time, control the controllables. You're the number one controllable. If you want to change your life, you got to change your life. How do you do that? Well, learn what the tools are that you can do that with and how to use them as best as possible. Right. And that's where you got to find, if you don't know how, you got to find people who do know how. That's what this project's about, is basically giving guys the frameworks like, hey, this is how this guy figured this out. Hey, this is how that guy figured it out. How do these things work in reality? What do women actually respond to, right? Women are hybristophiles, right? To one degree or another. They are attracted to these sort of things. They are attracted to men that prioritize themselves over others and practice true enlightened self-interest. They don't want a guy that's just selfish. They want somebody who practices what Rollo talks about, that enlightened self-interest. I cannot help others as well as I can is when I help myself first. You can't just give away to others. I did that, right? I was that giving guy that I always tried, despite my, Dark Triad, demeanor, I was very caring and I always gave to others and I tried to be generous with my time, my resources, my actual cash, and it bit me in the ass. Right? I ended up with fucking nothing. I ended up broke, damn near I went homeless, right? Had to move states, quit my job that I had and all that because I wasn't even making enough money at my job because I didn't negotiate with my boss properly. I didn't have boundaries. I fucked my entire life by being too fucking nice and not being selfish enough. So always remember, right tool for the right job. Be persuasive, not manipulative. And you'll get real far in life. Amuse Mastery. I say it all the time to the guys in the freshman Discord. I am the avatar of Amuse Mastery because I had to learn the hard way.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So my final thoughts on this. I don't think that any of these traits are necessarily bad. It's only when they're used in bad ways. So that's the number one thing that I want everybody to understand is that do your research. Learn about it, not just to prevent some of these traits to be used against you, but how you can use them for a brighter, better future, not just for yourself, but for that inner circle, that immediate circle. Because it really was fascinating when I went through my breakup, then really understanding these things, and then actually putting them into practice. As soon as I did that, my entire world changed. Everything got better. Not just my relationships with people, but just the way I carried myself. And especially with the essential skills of a dominant masculine presence, which is going to be coming out soon. And you guys are going to be seeing multiple books, like releasing every month, every couple months over the next however many years it takes to get everybody through. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be truly amazing, and I'm so excited for it. The best way to reach me, if you are a content creator who would like to be a part of it, definitely hit me up. I always get this wrong. Definitely hit me up right there on Instagram. It's the easiest way to communicate with me. And definitely tune in to some of the shows that I'm doing. I do shows every Tuesday. We call it Open Bar, where we are going through the history of the Manosphere and the Red Pill. So we had just did a show on Roosh, and I talked about his mental break and how he took the Christian pill and completely denounced everything that he had ever done, which I find a little crazy. I don't think you should ever forget your past, but he wanted to. We're going to be doing the 21 convention very soon. We're going to be doing Christian McQueen. We'll be covering him and his Playboy Summit, which, as I said, was the very first time that Rollo ever came out publicly and showed people his face. We're going to be talking about his buddy Goldman, who really teaches you a lot about identity and living your truth. He has a book called Photography Game, I believe, and it talks all about how he just used photography to meet and sleep with women, and just by living what he loved to do, which I think is such an important message. And then we have many more down the road. All right, Thor, I'm going to send it to you, and then we'll send us out.
Right. Sounds great. It's been said, and the purpose of this book series, thank you, Huds, for everything you're doing there. Make sure if you want to be involved in this, you do read A Dominant Masculine Presence. It does matter, and it's foundational. So do that, and then contact Huds or myself. It is said, and I think this is really one of those truisms that passes all tests, is, a wise man learns from his own mistakes. The greatest of men learn from the mistakes of others. That is the purpose of this encyclopedia of essential skills of a dominant masculine presence. So, having said all of that, I'm going to change gears to take us out, and I'm going to offer one of my courses at a discounted rate, and it is how to become a power lineman. You want to change in life? Start packing money in your wallet. That will change your life. And yes, it's hard work, but if you're interested in doing something physical, It's mostly men. I'll just be straight up, 99.9% men. But this is those infrastructure jobs that won't go away. They will increase. We're under a tremendous risk of a coronal mass ejection or parts of the grid going down. We've already experienced it. Who are they going to call when the power's out? Power's out, there's no internet, no servers up. You know, we have to, power linemen must keep the fire in the wire for us to survive in our modern civilization, or we're back in the Stone Age. So, oh, hang on real quick. Something popped up here. Okay, we're good to go. All right. So with that, guys, you can find me at becomedurable.com. I'm going to take you out a little bit more on what that power lineman course is. Thanks for joining us. I mean, there's 240 folks in there. Hit the thumbs up, hit a subscribe button. Every one of these guys has their own channel, up and down. Please just go subscribe. And, you know, if you don't want to watch, just leave it in there. The algorithm will put it down at the bottom. You don't have to, but it does us a tremendous amount of help to get our message out of a rising tide lifts all ships. Until next time, Skull.
Are you interested in becoming a power lineman? Then look no further. Come to Become Durable, RP Thor's exclusive website, where you can become durable and learn how to gain a power lineman career. Scroll down past the mastery of oneself, creating a dominant masculine excellence, and look at the courseware that's available to you on becomedurable.com. And come on down and take a look at becoming a power lineman. This is an amazing opportunity for you. Click on the button and it will take you to where you can purchase how to become a power lineman and where to start. So what RP Thor does here is he takes you through how to become a power lineman with my 38 years of experience to change careers and become a power journeyman lineman. You can make between $100K and $300K a year after you become a journeyman lineman. Now, this is a huge opportunity. This 1 hour lecture will actually give you all of the links and the references needed so that you can start to pre-certify to find the fastest path to become accepted as a power lineman. Do you have what it is that it takes to become a power lineman? Can you get up early? Can you stay late? Can you work hard? Can you work smarter and work harder? Then you need to come and take a look at becoming a power lineman. I show you exactly where to start. And what's even more important than that is that only a few men will actually be able to do this exciting career. And I want you to do it. And the reason I want you to do it is because at least you'll know whether this is something for you or not. It's 5-star rated, and I can tell you this, it is only $88.21 for this 1 hour video and the PDF documentation that also shows you every school that is available to you in the United States and in Canada. $88.21 is significant because that is the loaded hourly cost that a lineman is paid here on the West Coast, particularly Southern California. So if this is for you, come and take a look.